Hey, what is going on, everyone? This is your boy Tanveer Syed, the Bengal Dragon. Make sure to hit that like, subscribe, and bell notification buttons, as all your support really helps this legally blind YouTube content creator to remain motivated to continue making a variety of different type of videos in this channel. And through the YouTube algorithms and engagement will help this channel grow. Today, I'm going to talk about Big Boss from the Metal Gear Solid series. For a full explanation on what happened in terms of the main plot of Metal Gear Solid, I invite you to check out Gamespot's video in the description below. My analysis is not going to include Metal Gear Revengeance. Unlike a couple of my previous videos, I am not the first one to attempt a character analysis of Big Boss. So the pioneering pressure is off of me at the moment. And yes, I have seen a few of the other analyses. I am just going to give you my evidence based interpretations of the validity of Big Boss's decisions. Let us begin first with a brief history of Big Boss. I give my life, not for the person who would be known as Big Boss was born in 1935. This is based off the fact that during the events of Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker, which took place in 1974, Big Boss was 39 years old. He suffered the consequences of high radiation at Bikini Atoll. For at least 10 years, he was trained by the boss. This is to the point where Naked Snake, the version of Big Boss in MGS3 before getting that title, says,
"What's the story between you and the boss?"
She was like a mother, and my master. Half of me belongs to the boss. For 10 years, we lived and died together. You couldn't possibly understand.
And you think you can kill her now?
After the Virtuous mission and the boss's defection, Naked Snake was ordered to assassinate the boss. After that, the events of Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops happened, and after that, in 1974, the events of Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker happened. During the events of Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker, Snake and Kaz Miller form MSF, which is basically an army without borders. 1 year after that, the events of Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes happened, where MSF gets attacked by XOF and Skullface. Around this time, Big Boss also has 3 clones, which are Solid Snake, Liquid Snake, and Solidus Snake. Anyways, 9 years after the events of MGS Ground Zeroes, the events of MGS The Phantom Pain happens, where a doppelganger of Big Boss called Venom Snake carries out the events of Metal Gear Solid The Phantom Pain, whilst the actual Big Boss goes away to do his own thing. Then, some years after that, the events of the first Metal Gear game happens, where Venom Snake dies. Then, after that, the events of Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake happens, where Big Boss is apparently killed. After that, there are some quarrels about the remains of Big Boss, but eventually, in Metal Gear Solid 4 at the ending, where the AI systems GW and JD were finally destroyed, the real Big Boss, who apparently did not die in Zanzibar land, but basically went into coma, after some reconstruction, wakes up and he finally gets what he wanted. He finally gets the location of Zero.
Ocelot and Eva wanted 2 things: to bring me back to life and to end the Patriots. That meant destroying the AI and killing the man, JD and Zero. Right before you uploaded the virus into GW, the way to JD was opened, but only through the physical manifestation of GW. That's when we finally learned the location of this man, Zero. For me, and for them, for Naomi, nothing was more important. It all started with him. Zero.
Big Boss did much of what he did to find the location of Zero. After killing Zero, Big Boss succumbs to Fox Die and dies on the boss's grave. Now, moving on to the analysis of Big Boss's decision. Why I feel it is the wrong decision and what could have led him to take this wrong decision. But to understand Big Boss's perspective, we must first understand the boss as a character and her traumatic life. Because it is this traumatic life and her traumatic demise that has a continuing influence on Big Boss's decision making.
Paddles of white cover fields flowing in grieving tears.
To understand the boss, we must take a look at the ending of Metal Gear Solid 3. Please pay close attention as this is the pivotal moment of Big Boss's life. The day that changed everything for him, as it was referenced several times during the events of Peace Walker and Metal Gear Solid 4. Also, this is something that a certain other game franchise should learn about how to tell a character story.
She didn't betray the United States. No. Far from it. She was a hero who died for her country. She carried out her mission knowing full well what was going to happen. Self-sacrifice. Because that was her duty. The boss's defection was a ruse set up by the US government. It was all a big drama staged by Washington so they could get their hands on the philosopher's legacy. And the boss was the star of the show. They planned it so that they could get the legacy that Colonel Volgin inherited and destroy the Shagohod at the same time. Only a legendary hero like the boss could have earned Volgin's trust. Finding out where the philosopher's legacy was hidden was to be her greatest mission. Everything was going according to plan. But then something happened that no one could have predicted. Colonel Volgin fired an American-made nuclear warhead at Sokolov's research facility. Khrushchev demanded that the US government provide proof that it wasn't involved. So the operation itself was greatly expanded and revised. In order to prove its innocence, they'd have to get rid of the boss. And that one of their own would have to do the job. The boss wouldn't be allowed to come back home alive. And she wouldn't be allowed to kill herself. Her life would be ended by her most beloved disciple. That was the way the government wanted it. That was the mission she was given, and she had no choice but to carry it out. Her death at your hands was a duty she had to fulfill. Out of duty, she turned her back on her own comrades. A lesser woman would have been crushed by such a burden. But I think she wanted you, of all people, to know the truth. She wanted to live on. In your memory, she was forbidden to tell you herself. And that's why she told me. History will never know what she did. Her story, her debriefing, will endure only in your heart. Everything she did for her country. She sacrificed her life and her honor for her native land. She was a real hero. She was a true patriot.
Did you witness the melodrama? First, to touch on what Capcom can learn, sell the melodrama in your super successful franchise whose idea you have stolen from places like Alone in the Dark. You have never sold the melodrama, at least not to Metal Gear Solid levels. Even in Dino Crisis 2, the ending, you did not sell the melodrama enough. Sell the melodrama, and you will see that despite the plot having more holes than a 25-pound brick of Swiss cheese, people will mostly overlook the plot holes and will mostly praise the heck out of the storytelling, just like they did with The Last of Us Part 1. But getting back to the boss, she clearly shows signs of filling a maternal void left in her. After her son was taken from her, this maternal void was filled with Jack. That's why Naked Snake says the boss is like a mother to me. This is because the boss treated Jack like her son. However, before being a mother, the boss was a soldier, and the boss knows more about how to be a soldier, an effective soldier, than how to be a mother. And that is why I think you see this perception of Jack to the boss. We get this idea that the boss views Jack as a disciple of sorts. This approach, I feel, is a result of an internal compromise of her own ideals, philosophies, and maternal instincts. You see her giving instructions to Snake like an instructor, but you also see the boss knows Snake like a mother would her child, as the boss can say that Snake lost weight just by even listening to his voice.
Talk to me. Let me hear your voice.
It's been 5 years, 72 days, and 18 hours.
You've lost weight.
You can tell just by the sound of my voice.
Of course I can. I know all about you.
However, this internal compromise I just mentioned caused a lot of suppression of trauma and left her with a lot on her mind. In fact, you can sense it at the very beginning.
Listen to me, Jack. Just because soldiers are on the same side right now doesn't mean they always will be. Having personal feelings about your comrades is one of the worst sins you can commit. Politics determine who you face on the battlefield. And politics are a living thing. They change along with the times. Yesterday's good might be tomorrow's evil.
Is that why you abandoned me?
No, it had nothing to do with you. I already told you, Jack. I was on a top-secret mission. A soldier has to follow whatever orders he's given. It's not his place to question why. But you're looking for a reason to fight. You're a natural-born fighter, but you're not quite a soldier. A soldier is a political tool, nothing more. That's doubly true if he's a career soldier. Right and wrong have no place in his mission. He has no enemies and no friends. Only the mission. You follow the orders you're given. That's what being a soldier is.
I do whatever I have to get the job done. I don't think about politics.
That's not the same thing. Sooner or later, your conscience is going to bother you. In the end, you have to choose whether you're going to live as a soldier or just another man with a gun. There's a saying in the Orient, loyalty to the end. Do you know what it means?
Being patriotic.
It means devoting yourself to your country.
I follow the president and the top brass. I'm ready to die for them if necessary.
The president and the top brass won't be there forever. Once their terms are up, others will take their place.
I follow the will of the leader, no matter who's in charge.
People aren't the ones who dictate the missions.
Then who does?
The times. People's values change over time, and so do the leaders of a country. So there's no such thing as an enemy in absolute terms. The enemies we fight are only enemies in relative terms, constantly changing with the times. As long as we have loyalty to the end, there's no point in believing in anything, even in those we love.
And that's the way a soldier's supposed to think?
The only thing we can believe in with absolute certainty is the mission, Jack.
Did you hear that? It really seems like she wants to get some things off her chest. Also, keep that line about the times dictating who the enemy is for later on in this video, especially in the Peace Walker section, as that really has an impact on Big Boss's decision making. And when it comes to Snake, you can also see that the boss's defection is something that Snake is having difficulty coming to terms with. At the beginning of Snake Eater, when Snake confronts the boss, his target, Snake could have easily pulled the trigger. But because of what the boss means to Snake, because of that internal conflict, Snake can't do anything. Notice this dialogue exchange.
Why'd you defect?
I didn't. I'm loyal to the end, to my purpose. What about you, Jack? What's it going to be? Loyalty to your country or loyalty to me? Your country or your old mentor? The mission or your beliefs? Your duty to your unit or your personal feelings? You don't know the truth yet. But sooner or later, you'll have to choose.
You know this haunts Snake for a very long time, as shown by flashbacks in Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker, even at the very beginning of the game.
What's it going to be? Loyalty to your country or loyalty to me? Your country or your mentor? Your mission or your beliefs? I am loyal to
Boss
myself.
is alive in Costa Rica. As I understand it, she was your commander, fought by your side, and that you killed her under orders from the CIA, thus surpassing her to become the hero known as Big Boss.
And I'll get more into Peace Walker later in this video. But back to the boss. The emphasis on loyalty she puts also starts to weigh very heavily on Big Boss. More on that in the following chapters. But you can see from this alone, whatever the boss is hiding, she is just torn up inside. It's not like she has no emotion, but like I said, the best thing she knows is how to be an effective soldier. Remember, she's also called the Joy, as in the joy of being triumphant in a battlefield. And it's not like she forgot. She killed the Sorrow, the father of her son, to protect her son and as part of her mission. And here is how she reframed that incident despite her pulling the trigger.
Then, 2 years ago, I faced the Sorrow, my old comrade in battle. He was my friend, but one of us had to die. I was left with no choice. The Sorrow gave his life for me. In June of 1944, the Cobras and I took part in the landing at Normandy. I was pregnant at the time. The Sorrow was the father.
She is viewing it as her loss. She's internalizing it as someone else paying the price for her mission. And at this clip,
There is nothing left inside me now. Nothing at all. No hatred, not even regret. And yet sometimes at night, I can still feel the pain creeping up inside me, slithering through my body like a snake.
this shows you she still misses her child. She never forgot. So she's someone who lost everything in the line of duty, dictated by the times and the political forces during those times. Let us now move to Big Boss's decision and why I feel Big Boss made the wrong decision, even till the end. You saw at the beginning, when he questioned the reason of the boss's decision, he was still trying to make sense of it. You can see that even at this point.
For 10 years, we lived and died together. You couldn't possibly understand.
And you think you can kill her now? That's your mission, isn't it? Assassinating the boss?
And if you played the game throughout, Snake actually keeps asking, how does it feel to betray your country? I'm not going to show all clips here because I'm trying to not make this an excessively long video. But for all those who played Metal Gear Solid 3, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But getting back to Peace Walker, the entire game is about Big Boss trying to come to terms with the boss's decision. And this event of Peace Walker happened 10 years after the boss's death. This becomes extremely clear when Big Boss enters Dr. Strangelove's lab. And for the same reason, trying to keep this video relatively short, I am not going to use all clips from Peace Walker. But Peace Walker, in its storytelling of Big Boss trying to come to terms with all the events involving the boss and what he had to do 10 years ago is executed very well. Just like that other game that should have done it already. No. I made at least 6 videos about it. I'm not even going to mention her name in this video. Anyways, pay attention to this clip very carefully.
It can't be.
Looks like death wasn't ready for you yet.
Boss,
And who might you be?
you. Dr. Strangelove, I presume.
I've been waiting. Snake, go on. Kill me like you killed her. Kill me like you killed the boss. Kill me!
What's the boss to you?
I'm the one she abandoned when she left this world. I won't rest until I get answers from the woman I loved. You and I are the same. We are the walking dead.
Is someone there?
Boss.
We have a visitor. I'll introduce him.
Who are you? A man. A warfighter.
Boss. Is that you?
I have no use for fabrications. I want the truth. The boss's last will. You must be dying to know yourself.
No. She abandoned her country. Abandoned us all.
Really? You think you understand her feelings?
You're trying to recreate the boss's last will. Is that it?
Why don't you ask her yourself, Jack?
Jack.
What?
Jack.
Boss.
Jack.
Boss.
Jack. Go home. I'm not your boss anymore.
Boss.
Go home.
No,
Did you notice Big Boss's hesitation as Dr. Strangelove constantly accused Big Boss? And also in Peace Walker, when many people call him Big Boss, notice he prefers to be called Snake. This is because he hates that name, Big Boss. Next, notice this conversation between Kaz and Big Boss in Peace Walker.
Snake, you can destroy it, right?
Yeah.
We all have our limits. Actions beyond our abilities.
Don't worry. I won't screw it up this time.
You're the one who killed the boss. Destroying that AI means reliving that memory.
It's just a machine.
Snake, I'm worried. But for a machine, willpower is no issue.
What are you saying, Kaz?
You're a hero, Snake, but you're not a machine.
That I can't destroy that thing?
That machine's not the problem. It's that the boss still lives inside of you.
Bullshit!
She's dead, Snake. It's time to come to terms with that. Let me put it another way. You've left everything behind. Your country, your identity, your past and ideals. But there's still one thing you haven't let go of.
What are you talking about?
The boss. You still haven't let her go. That's why you're so afraid to find out the truth about her. And that's what's holding you back from your future. Snake, she died a decade ago. How long can you live with a ghost?
Kaz, I thought I knew everything about her. But I still don't understand what happened to her at the end.
There, you're no different from that scientist woman.
When she didn't believe me, I realized something. That debriefing I heard could have been part of the cover story they made up. Now, even I'm not sure what her real intentions were. Why did she take that mission? How did she feel about dying? Why was I chosen?
You want to know the truth?
Ah!
The truth won't change the past. You still want to know?
You see, people, that other game franchise. Now do you see, just like Peace Walker was about Big Boss trying to come to terms with his trauma, that other game franchise should have dedicated an entire game about her trying to come to terms with her trauma. If they want to kill her off, they have to make that death count. They can't do it like Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance, where they killed off the main character, Liu Kang, before you got to even the main menu screen. And Peace Walker is the perfect example on how to embed the central purpose of the game, which has the theme of trying to stop another Metal Gear. Did you notice how conflicted Big Boss is even after 10 years? It's to the point where he starts disbelieving what he believed for 10 years. This is that suppressed trauma surfacing and him deconstructing the reality and the explanation he had constructed. Believe me, there are a lot of scenes in Peace Walker about this, and you have to watch the cutscenes in context to see how beautifully this central purpose of Big Boss trying to come to terms with this trauma has been executed. Even at the Snake torture scene, if you pay attention to the dialogues, especially if you go back again and again to Dr. Strangelove's torture room, and yes, I have done this because I wanted to see if there are any hidden dialogues that I missed. You will also find a sense of regret in Big Boss. He says something like, "Do it, kill me, because I killed my beloved with my own hands." Something like that. He does say that. You can even see it reach a boil at this point in Peace Walker. At the back of his mind, he still can't figure out why the boss defected, why the boss did what she did.
Why? I don't understand. Answer me. Tell me why. Answer me.
Do you see, even after 10 years, the trauma he suppressed surfaced and the unanswered questions started to haunt him again. And when he himself tried to answer them, he was filled with confusion, regret, and anger. And in that shattered state of mind where he cannot come up with an answer that makes sense, he is so desperate for an answer that he is asking a machine representation of the boss for answers.
Stop it. Don't just sit there. Stop it!
That was Snake coming to his absolute breaking point. Remember, Kaz Miller said, if he goes through with this, he has to relive that trauma again. Something along those lines. Now, it is very closely associated. Stopping a Metal Gear and putting the boss or a representation of her down again. And in the end, Snake says,
She betrayed me, Kaz. She what? In the end, she put down her gun. And when she did, she rejected her entire life up to that point, including me.
What do you mean?
In giving up her life, she abandoned everything she was as a soldier.
And you consider that betrayal?
I won't make the same choice as her. My future is going to be different.
Then?
Yeah, that's right. From now on, call me Big Boss.
this is because the boss trained him like a mother would a child to be a soldier, to have loyalty to the end, to fight on. Snake viewed the boss's defection as a betrayal to him. The boss was loyal to the end to the mission, but not loyal to the end to him. This is how Snake viewed it, because this is all that Snake knows. And this is all that Snake knows because this is all that the boss taught Snake to know. To Snake, the boss has betrayed all that she has taught Snake. Remember, I emphasized how to think like a soldier at the very beginning of this video? This is why. So as a result of Snake figuring out for himself how to think like a soldier, he finally accepts the title of Big Boss and chooses to define it himself. And remember, the boss said that the times dictate who the enemy is? At the very end of Peace Walker, right after the Zeke battle, who does Big Boss want to take on?
We are going to be fighting the biggest beast of all. The Times. 10 years ago, the Times rejected the boss and killed her. And now, we're the ones being tested. Will the Times erase us? Or work with us? It's gonna be a lonely battle. No good or evil. No winners or losers.
And part of his justification is Snake saying that 10 years ago, the Times rejected the boss. So basically, he is blaming the Times for her defection. Let's now look at what the boss said exactly about what she is doing and why she is doing it.
Why are you doing this?
Why? To make the world one again. The world used to be whole. But with the end of the Second World War, the philosophers began to fight amongst themselves, and the world was torn apart. The Cobras, my comrades who trained and fought alongside me, were torn apart as well. Think back. When I was leading the Cobras, America and Russia were fighting together. Enemies change along with the times, the flow of the ages, and we soldiers are forced to play along. I didn't raise you and shape you into the man you are today just so we could face each other in battle. A soldier's skills aren't meant to be used to hurt friends. The world must be made whole again. The philosophers must be reunited. I will devote my skills to that purpose. And with the Colonel's money, I will achieve that end. Just as I once created the Cobras.
The boss wanted to unite the world as she saw a world without borders from space. She specifically mentioned that she's going to use the money and try and make the world whole again by reuniting the philosophers. The philosophers are basically the most influential people of the United States, Russia, and China, and thus hold all the power, money, and influence. So the boss wanted to make the world whole again by reforming this organization. Guess who interpreted it this way? Zero! Yes, ladies and gentlemen, at the beginning, Zero was right. The organization behind the scenes that pull all the strings so that the world can be made whole, and those borders are only superficial. Guess who saw it this way? Zero! I have seen enough of these videos about the overview effect, the boss being a globalist, the sunk cost fallacy, lack of grief counseling, even something as stupid as Solid Snake and Otacon being right. Solid Snake and Otacon, after Metal Gear Solid, form an organization that goes around destroying Metal Gears. They don't go around trying to destroy the means of people creating more Metal Gears. But back to Big Boss. Paz, Pacifica Ocean, told him this exact thing right before the Zeke battle. And Snake is still in denial. He wants to do things his way. How he interpreted it. Because he was not only traumatized by what he had to do, but also partially by what the United States made the boss go through as a soldier. That's why Big Boss tries to create a nation that tries to make things better for soldiers.
We will forsake our countries. We will leave our motherlands behind us and become one with this earth. We have no nation, no philosophy, no ideology. We go where we're needed, fighting not for country, not for government, but for ourselves. We need no reason to fight. We fight because we are needed. We will be the deterrent for those with no other recourse. We are soldiers without borders, our purpose defined by the era we live in. We will sometimes have to sell ourselves and services. If the times demand it, we'll be revolutionaries, criminals, terrorists, and yes, we may all be headed straight to hell. But what better place for us than this? It is our only home, our heaven and our hell. This is utter heaven.
And this state of confusion, trauma, suppression, misinterpretation, and his limited knowledge of life only as a soldier led to his wrong decisions and conclusions. The problem with Zero's plan was the automation itself after the attack by XOF. Otherwise, the human patriots were following the boss's will almost to a T. Big Boss was also made to show his loyalty in a way. Remember in the beginning of Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake says that he's willing to die for the top brass, but is he willing to kill his mother figure for the top brass? That is why Big Boss said,
Ever since the day I killed the boss with my own hands, I was already dead.
So Big Boss basically interpreted the boss's will as a nation for soldiers who will not be exploited by any government. This is Big Boss selectively focusing on what the boss said about how politics and the times can determine your enemies and even turn your friends into enemies and turn on some people who you are very close to. This shows you that Big Boss is taking some type of an implicit revenge on the times and the governments who actually are in those times influencing all the decisions and lives of the soldiers. This also shows you how deeply Naked Snake was impacted by killing the boss. He kept making the wrong decision over and over again. But all he knows is how to be a soldier. He just focused on removing the exploitation part. Obviously, he fails. And what does Big Boss say in the end?
Boss, you were right. It's not about changing the world. It's about doing our best to leave the world the way it is. It's about respecting the will of others and believing in your own. Isn't that what you fought for?
That is completely wrong. What he says implies inaction. The boss wanted to reform the philosophers and spend $100 billion for people to be left alone and for the boss not to do anything? That makes absolutely no sense.
The world must be made whole again. The philosophers must be reunited. I will devote my skills to that purpose. And with the Colonel's money, I will achieve that end. Just as I once created the Cobras.
If you played MGS Peace Walker, you know that peace, as a result of inaction, is an illusion. The boss wanted to create an organization that has the largest influence so that it can use its influence and people within its sphere of influence to minimize conflict. And this is because of one human nature. Conflict is an eventuality. If it wasn't, we would not need such evolving and elaborate and complicated justice systems in the world. So that's what I believe based on the evidence I have found and shown you. Let me know in the comment section below if you agree or disagree. And please provide your evidence from within the games to support any of your claims. And we'll have a healthy discussion about it. So that about wraps it up for this video. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And as always, hit that like, subscribe, and bell notification buttons. Share this video with anyone you think might find this content interesting. For my next character analysis, it might be a GTA 4 character, or it might be Ethan Winters from Resident Evil 7. I have received requests for both, and I will have to look into them before I make a decision. This is your boy Tanveer Syed, the Bengal Dragon, signing out.
I will see the choices within my hands. How can we